Private Barry Winchell arrives at Fort Campbell as he has his orders to report to the 502. The sergeant in charge, Diaz, asks him some questions and Barry confesses that he has never shot a gun, as his mother hates guns, but promises that he will be able to handle it. Diaz informs him that they need an assistant gunner on a 40mm grenade launcher, and gives Barry the manual. He also tells the sergeant that he had an alcohol addiction, but that is all in the past, but the sergeant insists he will be watching Barry. Afterward, Barry meets his roommate, Fisher, while other soldiers are playing cards. After settling in, he brings out a cigarette, but Fisher has posted a no smoking signal on the wall, and says he can't smoke in his room, despite the barracks allowing it. Fisher says that he has allergies and gives Barry some rules to follow. He also tells him to always say Winchell whenever anyone asks for his name, as first names show signs of weakness. The next morning, Fisher wakes Winchell up for the morning routine. But Winchell is late and the sergeant punishes him by asking him to perform 100 push-ups. The soldiers taunt and laugh at him as they walk into the woods, calling him the new boy. Winchell is tired due to the push-ups and couldn't walk fast, but the sergeant tells him to walk faster. After a long walk and run, Fisher asks his unit members if they aren't too tired to look for Winchell as he is too slow to catch up with the rest, and they refuse to look for him. The next morning, Winchell arrives as the soldiers prepare to move out and the sergeant tells them that they have 5 minutes to get ready, while his unit members make fun of him. Fisher offers to help him, but Winchell refuses his assistance. Back in their room, Fisher opens his trunk and sees a letter. He opens it and throws the letter back into the trunk. Winchell is tired from the drill, but Fisher wakes him up and tells him that his ex-wife is moving to Hawaii, and she is taking his son, Derek, with her. Fisher shows Winchell Derek's picture and says that he loves him. Fisher then asks him if he is qualified on his weapon and he says no. Fisher tells him that he can't let the company down and that everyone has to perform at the best of their capability, or they all die. Winchell tells him that he can't get through the manual as he is learning. Fisher confesses that he is suffering from ADHD and Fisher asks him if he wants a Ritalin as it will help him focus, but Winchell tells him no. Fisher offers to help him clean his corner and get through the manual with him, even though it's 2:30 a.m. Baker, Fisher, and Winchell attend a party at a bar. While they drink, Adams, a transgender, performs and everyone sticks money into her lingerie. Winchell takes an interest in Adams and Fisher calls him to come over to their table. The boys argue that Adams has and Barry tells Fisher that he has a mission to find out if Adams is man or woman. Fisher tells Adams that Winchell wants to feel her obvious thing and Winchell tells him to shut up, which leads to a fight between them. Fisher hits Winchell on his face and Adams offers to take him for a tour. Adams takes him to her room and helps Winchell clean his shirt. Adams tells him that she heard Fisher asking if her obvious thing is real and Winchell apologizes. Adams tells him he is not like most men and Winchell states that he was brought up to behave a certain way around ladies. Adams asks for his mission and he lies that he came to find out how she learned to dance like that. Other transgender enter the room to prepare for their next show and Winchell asks for her number. He also tells Adams that his first name is Barry. Winchell tells the boys that Adams is a girl, as her obvious things are real, and they leave the bar. Fisher tells him not to come to the bar without his permission, but Winchell tells him that he doesn't need anyone's permission to go out. While they leave, the boys tease Winchell about Adams and he tells them that nothing happened with her, but they tell him that they don't care. As they about to head back to the fort, Fisher in a drunken haze pukes on Winchell's car. The next day, during a field maneuver, Winchell gets shot in his chest, and Fisher begs him not to die on him, forgetting it was just a field maneuver. But Winchell gets a card for being shot. Winchell calls Adams and lies to Fisher that he is talking to his mom when he asks. Winchell asks if she would like to go out for a cup of coffee, but Adams tells him that he will be seeing a different person as she won't be putting on makeup. Adams tells him about her neighbor's party and asks Winchell to come. Upon getting to the party, Adams introduces him to her friends, and they bond. Winchell tells her that he qualified on his gun last month, and the sergeant wants him to launch a missile as he hits all his targets in training. Adams tells him that she was once in the Navy, stationed in Saudi Arabia for the Gulf War, and she managed the field hospital. Winchell asks if she was Calpurnia in the Navy, but she tells him no. They have fun, splashing drinks on each other's clothes. They run after each other and ends up in a private corner. They have an awkward moment and Winchell informs her that he is returning to the base. He tells Adams that he would like to see her again. Adams tells her friend, Ginger, that Winchell wants to see him again and asks if Lester, Ginger's boyfriend, pays attention to Ginger's unfeminine boy parts when he wants to make love. Ginger says that he ignored them for the first few years and then they started to experiment. Adams decides to pursue a relationship with Winchell. One night, the boys go to the bar again and Winchell stares at Adams while she dances. Winchell follows him to the changing room and they start to make out. Winchell stops, stating that they need to take things slow, and Adams tells him that most guys tell him the same thing, and they never call him again. Adams tells him to go home to think about it, and he leaves the room as he does not have the courage to do this. On his way out, Fisher mocks him about having lipstick all over his face and tries to find out what happened, but Winchell shuts him down. Later on, Diaz tells Winchell that he is doing well in the field and asks about his classwork. He tells him that he will be betting on him for the Soldier of the Month, and Winchell laughs it off, thinking it is a joke. Winchell then visits Adams at her home and tells her that his sergeant wants to nominate him for the Soldier of the Month. Adams also tells him that she has a pageant, Miss Tennessee Entertainer of the Year soon, and Ginger is helping with her outfit. Adams states that she has to design an outfit for the evening wear competition and answer some questions. Adams breaks a glass cup and tells Winchell that he makes her nervous, as he is too normal and her lifestyle is far outside what is considered normal. The glass cuts Adams' finger and Winchell licks the blood off her hand. Adams asks him if he knows what he has gotten himself into, but Winchell does not care, and they kiss. They make love to each other and Winchell returns to the base, despite Adams wanting him to stay. Shortly after, a new soldier, Glover, arrives at the base and becomes friends with Winchell. Fisher sees them and asks them to stop smoking, but Winchell tells him that there is not any regulation against smoking in the base. Winchell tells Fisher to back off, as the kid is new, but Fisher tells Glover to be careful of Winchell, saying that he is a bona fide rope sucker. Winchell follows him to the room and asks if he wants to get him discharged, but Fisher says that it was all a joke. Fisher says that he disappears every time and no one knows where he goes, but Winchell tells him that he is entitled to a private life apart from his soldier's life. Fisher tells him that the army is not a normal job, as they are supposed to live for each other and die for each other. They have an argument about a soldier's duty, causing Fisher to get upset and break a plate in anger. He blames Winchell and orders him to clean it, but Winchell insists on not cleaning it and says that he needs to get help for his mental health. The two get into a fight and Fisher hits his head, making Winchell's head bleed, prompting the other soldiers to separate them. Fisher tries to apologize, but Winchell tells him to back off. However, Fisher follows him to the emergency room. Winchell thinks the pills he puts in his drink messed up his mind, and Fisher agrees to get help from the mental clinic. Fisher becomes sober for what he did, and Winchell says that he will tell Diaz that he threw the first punch, but his private life stays private. At Adams' house, Winchell reads his manual while Adams designs her pageant outfit. Adams thinks that he should report Fisher, but he says that they are infantry and are supposed to be dangerous. Winchell writes a letter to his mother and Wally, and Adams helps him correct the mistakes. Winchell insists on seeing where Adams grew up and she takes him to her house. Adams insists on not seeing her mother, as she thinks she has to be herself before seeing her mother again. After making her mother cry by transforming into a transgender, she begs Winchell to take her home. Back at home, Adams tells Winchell about vaginoplasty, the procedure to change the private part. She adds that it cost $50,000 and Winchell tells her that she doesn't need it. Adams tells him that she is tired of being a freak, and Winchell asks if he is also a freak for being in love with a freak. Winchell kisses her and they make love, with Winchell being accepting of her fully. Concurrently, at the base, Fisher offers to help Winchell with his presentation for the Soldier of the Month, but finds out he isn't on his bed. Fisher finds out that everyone is busy with their private life and ends up going out with Glover. Out of anger, he says to Glover if a bi can be loyal to his unit and suggests that Glover talks to Diaz about having a bi in their company. Fisher tells him that one of them spends a lot of time in a gay club. Glover asks for the person, but Fisher says that he doesn't want his friend to be in trouble. Glover figures out he is talking about Winchell, but Fisher insists that they are talking off the record. The next day, Glover tells Diaz about his conversation with Fisher. He tells Diaz that he heard about it and Diaz dismisses him, saying that it's just a rumor, and he shouldn't be spreading it. The sergeant thinks that they should find out about the club, but Diaz says that one can be a bi according to the policy, as long as you don't do anything bi or tell anyone that you are, and you cannot ask a soldier about her gender orientation. The sergeant starts investigating the club, trying to find out who the soldier is. One day, during the workout, the sergeant asks Baker if he has heard about the club called Vision, and he says that he has been there. Winchell stops his workout and listens to their conversation. In the room, Winchell confronts Fisher for talking about him and says that he might be kicked out of the army. Fisher tells him that Glover has grudges against him and he is the one spreading the rumor, but Winchell figures out that Fisher put him up to it. Fisher tells him that he also kissed someone at the club and he will also be discharged if anyone finds out. Fisher tells him to stay loyal to him as he has helped him throughout his stay at the base. The sergeant continues his investigation and asks Fisher about the club. Winchell walks in and tells him that he threw the first punch during the fight. The sergeant asks him if he has been to the club, and Fisher tells the sergeant that everyone is entitled to private life. The sergeant starts taunting Winchell by singing a discriminating song during drills and notices that Winchell is not singing the song. At Adams's house, she talks about her show and outfit. He notices that Winchell is being cold and asks him what's on his mind. Winchell tells him that he can't go for the pageant as he needs to study for the Soldier of the Month, and Adams suggests that he can study in her changing room. but Winchell insists that he will get more done on the base. Adams thinks that he has found someone else and confronts him about it. Winchell gets upset and says that he doesn't know what people want from him. When Adams tells him that he will not use him to figure out who he is, Winchell cries and says that he just wants people to be happy and tells Adams that he will be with her in spirit. Adams consoles him and suggests that they go out. Adams takes him to her favorite place and Winchell asks her to perform for him and he picks a fight with them. Winchell tries to calm him down and Glover calls Winchell a bye. But Winchell tells him that he doesn't want to fight with him. While Winchell leaves for his room, Glover calls him a homosexual and runs after Winchell, trying to rile him up for a fight. Winchell beats Glover and the sergeant arrives. Fisher makes fun of Glover, telling him that a beats him and goes to meet Winchell in the room. Soon after, Winchell tells Fisher that he will be applying for a transfer the next week to get his room, as he needs a place to focus and smoke a cigarette with everything going on with him. Shortly after, Winchell apologizes to Glover and offers him some packs of cigarettes. Winchell moves his bed to the hallway, when Fisher says that he can't sleep in the same room with the company's dog. Nasty. It's the day of the pageant and Adams performs for the audience while Fisher and Glover return to the base drunk. They see Winchell asleep in the hallway and Fisher persuades Glover to slap him. Glover hits him and they both run to the room, ends up waking Winchell. Winchell follows them to the room and confronts them, and he tells them to leave him alone. Not satisfied with the outcome, Fisher gives Glover his bat, telling him to go outside and fight with Winchell after teasing him about his loss. While Adams sings during the pageant, Glover stares at Winchell with the bat in his hand. He later gets up and hits Winchell with the bat near death. He returns to Fisher's room, covered in Winchell's blood, and tells Fisher that he did it, showing him the bat full of Winchell's blood. While Fisher cleans the bat, he says that the blood has a funny color and goes to look at Winchell. Fisher asks Glover what he did to Winchell and screams for help, while Glover runs out of the base. Adams wins the pageant and returns home. While she settles in, she hears the news on TV that Winchell was attacked and has been transported to the university hospital, but they could not save him. Winchell suffered head trauma and his parents requested that he should be removed from life support. Adams is devastated hearing the news and Ginger consoles him. Diaz, Adams, Glover, and Fisher are interrogated about Winchell's death. Fisher and Glover are found guilty and sentenced to prison. Adams plans to be who Winchell wants her to be, a real soldier's girl, and undergoes gender reassignment surgery in the end.